So my name, is Alessandro, but Chirpo is shorter. So this is also my handle on Twitter. And I also co-organize another meetup called Web de London with these folks. We don't have any specific topic. We change the topic every month, every 2 months. And I work at DAZN. How many of you knows about DAZN? Woohoo! Okay. So basically, for those who don't know about DAZN, is mainly because it's a UK company. We basically stream sports. Think about Netflix, but for sports, even live. But we are not streaming anything here in the UK. And the main reason is because in order to stream something, you need to buy the rights, and we need to wait for that here in the UK. But we are already in 9 countries all over the world. We already have millions of users, etc., etc. Of course, guess what? We are hiring. Dear JavaScript, this is a talk that basically is like a love letter to JavaScript. I'm an engineer manager for the developer experience. Means that basically the developer experience teams are focusing more on the tools rather than focusing on the product. And yeah, so basically I'm also a developer other than being a manager. And this is like a love letter to JavaScript and a bit of thoughts that I had around the language. Let's start. Dear JavaScript, I love you. I hate you. It's not you. It's me. So why I love JavaScript? There are several reasons. One of the main, I have 3-4 main reasons. First reason is because it's declarative. What do we mean by declarative? So in general, declarative code tells the what. Imperative code tells the how. In general, imperative, what's this sound? Okay. Okay, that's cool. Okay. Imperative code usually is more verbose. So let's try to make it a real life example. If I'm going to a pub or a bar and I want to drink something, in the imperative world, I will talk to the bartender. Hey, please take the glass from the shelves, put the glass in front of the draft, pull down the handle until the glass is full, and pass me the glass. In a declarative way, you can just go to the bartender and say, hey, a Coke, please, with no sugar. And so, because the bartender already knows how to give you the drink. So let's talk about the code. So let's say that this is JavaScript, right? You have a function that accepts an array with 2 words in uppercase, and you want to lowercase them. In an imperative fashion, you will do this. You loop through the collection, you create maybe even a temporary array, temporary collection, and then you just do the uppercase for each word, and then you push it to the temporary array. Simple and easy, but in a declarative way, you can do this, right? You can just simply use the map function in JavaScript that will automatically loop through all the words in the array and apply the to lowercase function. So you don't have to specify how to loop and how to apply the to lowercase function. And this applies not just to the language, but even to frameworks and libraries in general. Let's think about, for example, Google Maps. Okay, you want to know an amazing map on your website, and you can use the Google API or the Google libraries to do that. So let's say that in this case, what you do, you just initialize a new map from the Google SDK, and then you create another marker, and then at the end, with all the options, and at the end, you explicitly assign the map to the marker. Fine. But is there any better way? If we look at React, for example, if you want to achieve the same thing, you can just use the components and things like that, right? So you just specify the options, just be in a declarative way, you just specify what you want. Nice and easy. Another reason why I love JavaScript is for the REPL, in the sense that you read, evaluate, loop. So the thing is that if you want to understand how some stuff works, you can easily try it from your browser console or even from your terminal, right? You don't have to set up a whole new environment for that. You can easily interact, trying, and play with the language itself. Sometimes I get people that ask me, hey, Chirpo, can I do that in JavaScript? Have you tried that on your laptop, on your console? Nothing will go on fire, you know? So that's also what I like about JavaScript. Even Ruby and other languages has this thing that you can play with the language itself in order to explore all the functionality. The other reason why I love JavaScript is because it's the lingua franca, right? You can find it in basically JavaScript running everywhere, or used even for IoT and other cool stuff. And also, now that we have lots of kids that are approaching programming, JavaScript is used also during the coding dojo. And of course, this is a quote that you can find in every JavaScript presentation, so I had to put it there. Everything that can be written in JavaScript will be eventually written in JavaScript. And let's check a bit of the stats. This is from stats from GitHub. If you see, as you can see, JavaScript is the main language on GitHub, of course, with the main active repositories, and also I didn't have enough space, but also with the vast majority of issues. If you go to Stack Overflow, and you check, I think it's the survey from 2018 or 17, JavaScript, again, is the main language. And if we check libraries or frameworks, again, Node.js is the first one, then you have Angular, and then React. And this is a tweet from Ben Lesh. He's one of the, I think, one of the main committer on Angular and RxJS. So basically it's saying that if you're a completely beginner starting off with JavaScript, you can start building things straight away. You don't have to focus too much on the fundamentals. You can start and have fun. So these are the main reasons why I love this language. But I hate JavaScript sometimes, especially in the past. Why? For the same reason. Because at some point I say, okay, I'm having fun, I'm doing things, I'm building stuff, but I don't know where to start to understand the fundamentals. And also, Ben Lesh replied to that thread that, where do I start? Start with fun. Yeah, I get it. But if I would like to understand a bit better on why things work in a specific way, where shall I start? So how many of you actively developed with other languages other than JavaScript, like PHP, Ruby? Okay. I'm old. And I started with C at uni in Java, and I did lots of PHP for almost 10 years. I was also doing JavaScript at the beginning when the full stack word wasn't a thing at the time, but I was just manipulating the DOM. I wasn't doing anything crazy. How many of you have ever used Prototype.js or Scriptaculous? Thank you, I feel you. And so the thing is that Java, PHP, especially object-oriented programming in a classical way, they had a huge impact on my way of programming, on building software. And I couldn't be that expressive and declarative as I said at the beginning. I was constantly reading this book and other books, and I was understanding the content and all the cool things, but I couldn't apply them effectively, okay? So there was something missing. If you go to Stack Overflow today, you will, or 3 months ago, but I don't think these things changed. These are the main questions about JavaScript, like how do I return the response from an asynchronous call? How do JavaScript closure works? Or how can I handle callback error in JavaScript with try-catch? Those are the same questions that I had like 6, 7 years ago, 5 years ago when I started using JavaScript as a main language. So, and they're still there, these kind of questions. So there's probably something missing, something that I don't know why it's still not clear, given the fact that now JavaScript is so popular. So I understand that the beauty of JavaScript with the events, callback, the async stuff, I understand that those things are cool and are useful. But I wasn't able at the beginning to use them properly. And I was thinking, am I dumb? Probably not. I hope so. And the main reason from my point of view is that other than the fact that I was using other languages, other paradigms, is also the fact that we have a sequential brain. When we do stuff, okay, we do one thing after another. If you're going to the grocery store, you don't have, okay, milk here, eggs here, and things like that, right? So that's why probably sometimes it's not that easy, especially if you're coming from other languages, to understand the full power of JavaScript. Look at this code. What's the output? I understand that maybe it's tricky, you will never write code like that. But if you really understand, and if you can answer what will be the output in 3 seconds and understand why, you will understand JavaScript. And I spend a lot of time on these snippets of code, and sometimes I get it, now I get it. But after 2 weeks, again, so it takes me some time. So basically you have a for loop, right? Then you have a set timeout, so an async call. Then you have a function that will output the value of I. Okay, if you are coming from other languages, you say, well, of course, it's going to be like 0, 1, 2. But the answer is that at the end, it's going to be free, free, free. So why? Why I couldn't answer easily the why it's working this way? There's another, and we will get to that. There's a guy, Matthew Potansin. He had a reply to the thread that I showed you before with Ben Lesh. He said, yeah, I agree with you, but we'll still challenge you on that. My theory is that people without fundamentals end up facing problems which seems incredibly hard, but will be a breeze with proper background. The problem, again, is, fine, at some point you need to understand the fundamentals, but what are those fundamentals? Where shall I start? So that's why I was a bit, not angry, yeah, angry myself, but with the language, maybe even sometimes with a community, let's say. So I don't think it's JavaScript. Because in order, from my point of view, to understand JavaScript, yeah, today you have a new framework every 2 seconds. You have React, you have Angular, you have Vue.js, but things are constantly changing. Even the language, but the fundamentals are not changing. What are the main things about the language that I think everyone should understand in order to progress and have more fun? The event loop, scope, and function. So what's the event loop? So we know that JavaScript is single-threaded, right? JavaScript can do one thing at a time. And I knew that since the beginning in the sense, yeah, JavaScript can do one thing at a time, cool. So what's the event loop? The simplest way to represent the event loop is a loop, and that's it. Because they tell me that it executes one thing at a time. Yeah, but it's not blocking at the same time. It's very fluid. So let's go back to the example that I did at the beginning, the two lowercase function. In this case, you have 4 different things that will be executed once at a time. So the function itself, then the map, then the lowercase, and again the two lowercase, and then I will exit with the results. So from the stack point of view, you have 2 lowercase, the map, 2 lowercase again, 2 lowercase again, and then you will empty the stack. So JavaScript is doing one thing at a time, which is fine. So, but how can it be so fast? Because, yeah, I can do one thing at a time, and it's also non-blocking only if the I/O is involved. This was one of the missing pieces. Okay, what's the I/O? Everything that you do with a file system, event in the browser, calling the database through Node.js, etc. So the I/O is, what's happening is that JavaScript doesn't really care about what's happening. He says, okay, this is something related to the I/O. Someone else is going to take care of that. JavaScript itself doesn't bother. So does it mean that JavaScript is always non-blocking? No, we can also block. So this is a very useful piece of code. So let's say that you have a showNumber function where you can specify range from 2. And then you are just incrementing the numbers until you don't get to the 2 value. If I'm doing that with the max save integer, so it's a very, very huge number, and then I have a set timeout that will print after 2 seconds, ciao, these things on my MacBook will be, I will be able to see ciao after 25 minutes. Okay, so if it's something that is not related to the I/O, because this is mainly something related to the CPU, right? So you can still block this thing. So for me, this was one of my haha moments. Okay, one thing at a time, it's cool, it's fast, only if the I/O is involved. So again, JavaScript is single-threaded. It executes one thing at a time. It has non-blocking model. And what makes the concurrent model possible? The fact that underneath you will still have threads, but not at JavaScript level. It's around the browser, the VM, let's say, or the V8 in case you are using a Node. So then the scoping. Scoping, yeah, it's important. Say, okay, why would we need to always learn about the scope? Because it's very important in JavaScript. Scoping refers to the current context of your code. Each function creates its own execution context. Okay, blah, blah, blah. But what it means that if you have this file, for example, with function B, you already have a scope, scope A, then function B. Inside function B, you have the scope B, and the scope B can access to the scope A as well. And inside function B, you also have function C, so another scope. But function C, the scope C can also access to the values in scope B and scope A. Say, okay, cool, this is theory, but why is that important? Because you can really use this technique to leverage lots of stuff. If you think about it, JavaScript is doing one thing at a time. It's like a small application running every time. So if you're running one function in another function, if you're running this function inside the inner function, basically JavaScript doesn't know anything about the outer function. The only thing that it knows is the context, so all the variable outside that. So that's why also I've seen lots of people coming from PHP, Java, start implementing the same pattern that they have in those languages. Even in Go, for example, sometimes people, okay, let's create a new dependency injection container. Why do you don't have dependency injection containers in JavaScript? Simply because there are other techniques in order to achieve the same results. So event loop and scoping, for me, it wasn't the other aha moment. So if we go back to this thing again, if you think about it, basically, the inner function is running on its own, doesn't really know about the for loop. But it always has a reference of the scope above it. So given the fact that the inner function will be executed a later stage, and the fact that JavaScript can do one thing at a time, the value of I will be the last value of the for loop. And that's why it's going to be 3. I'm not expecting you to understand that now. It's fine if you don't understand it, because it takes time. But again, if you want to understand how JavaScript works, focus on the event loop and scoping. Then function, last part. Function are first-class citizen. You can return a function from a function. You can pass the function as an argument to a function. It's cool things, but do I really need that? Yes. And why functions are objects? Why do I care about that? Well, one of the things that helped me a lot thinking about function as an object, if you have the hello function here, you have some properties about on the function itself, like the length. Length is 1. What's 1? Is the number of arguments. Given the fact functions are callable objects, it means that if I have the hello function, I can use the call method, because it's an object, on the function itself. Of course, it doesn't make any sense to do that, because you can just use hello open and close, but this gives you at least an idea why it's an object. Function returns undefined if there is no explicit returns. So if you're not returning anything, that's why you have undefined. So for example, I spent 2 months to understand why in the Chrome console I was getting undefined and undefined every time. So that's why you can use stuff like that. You can use the or conditional here, because basically console log will not return anything. So it's going to be undefined, it's going to be false. So you always call console log, and then you always execute the other function hello. Dan Abramov itself, sometimes himself says, okay, sometimes I'm learning a bit more about JavaScript every day. In this case, he did this tweet where he says, these two snippets are different, like object method and var method object.method method. Doesn't make any sense, but the fact that you can do these kind of things in JavaScript, the fact that you don't really care about the reference in the objects, is also a very important aspect of the language, because again, Java, PHP, all the things that I was used to, these kind of things didn't make any sense for me. So for example, if you have this function, this object with this function, like say hello from the friendly bot, you can assign say hello to another variable called wave in this case, but you're not copying anything about the object. You're just copying the function signature. And that for me was another haha moment. Say, oh, okay, can I do that? Lots of people that's already started immediately with JavaScript don't have these kind of challenges or issues because they are already used to that. In JavaScript, do you pass by value or by reference? Reference?
Copy.
Who says reference? Sorry? It depends. It depends.
Pass by reference unless the reference is
Okay, so if it's a number, it's going to be by bravissimi. If it's a string, same thing. If it's an object in this case, no. No. It's gonna be one. In this case, something will change if you are changing something inside the object. So, of course, there is a new name. It's called by sharing. I don't know who coined this name. So if you have, it's a bit tricky, but I did a lot of mistakes because I wasn't thinking about this kind of issues. So you can pass a function name as an argument. So, okay, you have a collection, 3 numbers, then you're using the map, so you're looping through this collection and you're applying this callback. Okay, so basically you're gonna get a square root, and you're gonna 1, 2, 3. Is there a better way to write this code? For you it's normal, for me it wasn't at the beginning, sorry. So you can write it in this way, right? Because the callback was gonna be called by the map function, right? So the thing is that even my brain wasn't used to doing this way because I was used to, okay, now you have to call this and then this and then this. In this case, you just delegate to the map. How many times, I mean, everyone did this mistake, right? That you have a promise and then you call a function immediately. You say, okay, right, because I have a promise, when it's resolved, then I want to call this. And you call it that immediately. What's going to happen is that that thing will be executed even before the promise. What's the difference? So the difference is that in this case, the do something, the first function expression will be only defined when that line is reached. Okay? The second case, instead, when you, let's say, load the file, you can specify it anywhere. You can call it anywhere. Yeah. But the thing is that, so I understand it's a bit cooler now to write in the first way, but sometimes it's better the second one so you can avoid confusions. Oh, now we have classes in JavaScript. Personally, I'm not that happy, but so what's the type of person? Object?
Sorry, function, sorry.
Exactly. Again, see, we were talking about 3 things: event loop, scoping, a function, and again, it's function. So that's why it's very important to understand how functions works. So if you understand the event loop, the scoping, not even going that deep in the subject, but if you understand a bit of the event loop, a bit the scoping, a bit the function, you can easily answer all these questions. Not the 4th one, because it's about this, and probably we need another presentation or 2 days of presentations. So again, it's me. Why I say it's me? Because I think we still need better guidance. JavaScript and the JavaScript ecosystem is evolving super fast, but I still think that even in my previous experience, I was like tech coach, so I was supporting the people in my company, and I could see that they had the same doubts. So I was saying, why? Probably because we need better guidance. And how can we provide better guidance? So we were talking about function that return a function. Wow, super powerful. And this is the main example that you can find everywhere. So how many times in production code have you ever write production code like this? How many times have you wrote a code add that return a function so you will add the argument, and so you can have a function add 2 where you can always add 2? How many times? If you go to every day, cool. So if you go to, for example, even to Mozilla and to MDN, the documentation, which is an amazing documentation, this is the example. But I don't think it's a proper example because probably people at the beginning will not understand. What if we provide something a bit different? So this is a function that will convert from one currency to another, okay? This is pseudocode, of course, because you don't have enough space. But let's say that you have an e-commerce, okay, and you want to provide the exact conversion, the exact amount on different currencies. But for example, let's say that you have an external third-party service that will give you the rate, okay? What you can do is that, okay, you have convert, you get the rate from a config or whatever, and then you return the amount multiplied by the rate. It's fine. It's working. You specify the two currencies, and voila. But let's say that this is, for example, every time you want to be accurate and you want to call the service every time. And you pay this third-party service every time you call it. So it's going to be a bit expensive, right? So what if you do this? You just say that you just need the starting currency and the end currency. You get the rate, and then you return a function that will accept that amount, okay? And then multiply by the rate. So what you can do is that then you can create a convert pound to euro, simply calling convert pound to euro, and you can reuse it as many times as you want, just doing one call, okay? Probably this when I did this example in my previous company, people say, now I get it. Or another, I use this, for example, sometimes when I just want to hack around a bit without setting up a proper logger. Let's say that I want to log several stuff. In this case, I have a function that basically takes a label and will return a function that will accept a message, and I will apply the label. So in this case, for example, we'll just call log Redis. Redis was going to be my label. So, and I'll have a variable, a function called Redis log. So every time I call Redis log, I know that it's going to prepend Redis. Another thing, better guidance. Could you do me a favor starting today? When you Google something about JavaScript, stop clicking on the W3 School link. Stop, please. Developer.mozilla.org is an amazing website. It's also, you can contribute to that. Mozilla is heavily working on that, so please just use MDN. Just prepend MDN and then what you are looking for. And also there's a lot of good documentation. And if you want to start being a bit more functional, start with a collection, start with an array. Just try to use filter, map, reduce, and sum, or every, and other methods about collections. Not because it's just cool to be a little bit functional, but it's just because they are there to do what you need, and you can be more declarative and better understand the language. So again, it's not just to be cool with JavaScript. It's also about writing something that is understandable for everyone. This is one of my favorite quotes by Martin Fowler, says that any fool can write code that a computer can understand. At the end, it's always 0 and 1 for them, right? Good programmers write code that humans can understand. So that's why it's important, from my point of view, to embrace the declarative way that JavaScript can provide. And still, I think that there is a missing spot, in the sense that sometimes you have these amazing books like Programming JavaScript Application, where they are going to talk about the front end, sometimes a little bit of CSS, or sometimes a little bit of HTML, etc. And yeah, finally, and you can be productive and build stuff. Or you have, for example, these amazing books by Kylie Simpson. You don't know JavaScript. They are amazing, but they are going super deep. So I still think there's something missing in the middle. When I'm talking about event loop scoping and functions, I did that probably in 10 minutes, right? Yeah, probably I could have said more, but I don't think people need to know more at the beginning in order to understand stuff. So Kylie Simpson, he wrote books, he's doing workshops, etc. And sometimes he's also feeling he's also doing mistakes. So sometimes if you don't feel that good about your code or about JavaScript or the way you're using JavaScript, it's totally fine. So the takeaways that I would like for you to take is to focus on understanding the building blocks. Event loop, scope, and function. React today is the coolest thing, but in 2 years probably something else, but JavaScript is going to be still there. If you're a beginner, find a mentor. If you can't find a mentor, find a buddy, someone to share the pain, the frustration. If you can support, be a mentor. But if you're a mentor, try to provide simple and clear guidance, not just acting cool. Hey, I'm showing you the query function with the add things. Try to provide more support with some real examples. And also, even if you're an experienced JavaScript developer, being a mentor is also a cool way to understand if you're really grasping the language. Sometimes it happened to me that I was helping and supporting people. They were asking questions about stuff that I never thought about. So it's always a good exercise. So, yeah, dear JavaScript, I love you, I hate you. It's not you, it's me or us. Thank you so much.